You're listening to Left Up the Valley 2.0, Atheist, Skeptic, and Humanist Radio.
Mighty Hertzy, you got a Biggest Be Crazy kind of thing?
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude.
Yeah, it's there.
I love that song.
Oh, me too.
So today's Schadenfreude is Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, but not the game, which is definitely better.
I'm glad you specified.
Oh, yes. I am that geeky. But yes, she has lost her personal Twitter.
Oh.
No, one would think
Lasers?
that one would think this might be from the litany of racism that she puts on there, or the calls for basically more insurrection.
Yeah.
Alas, it was just because of the COVID denialism and misinformation.
Good.
So at least it's something. She still has her professional Twitter, which does bring into question whether or not she will be able to do the same thing with that. And will Twitter allow it? Because usually that's used as a vehicle to talk to people and such, which also brings in the question, can she block people who are her constituents?
Oh, right. Because that's
if anybody lives in that area.
Okay.
Let's go join. Oh.
No, we're my constituents.
Yes.
Did she know the difference?
Probably not. I'm just gonna say. But yeah, so there's that. And then also I'd like to celebrate the 1 year of the January 6th insurrection that failed. Now, granted, I still hold that this potentially could be the beer hall situation of the US. However, the factor that it did fail, and major props to the Capitol Police for the stuff that they did and such, and sacrifices they made for that, to make sure that that was a Schadenfreude that we will still laugh at, and I will laugh at for the rest of my goddamn life.
Hell yeah.
Now, I know people are going to court now and like getting convicted and all that. So at what point are we gonna like arrest Trump for his part and where he sat in front of the TV and rewound and
because he watched
and went like this, look what they're doing. And did anything to stop it.
Who's the Attorney General? Crap, I just had that name in my head.
Barr was when he was on.
Merrick Garland. There we go.
Merrick Garland, yeah.
Yeah, Merrick Garland actually went on.
Canadian duty answered that.
Yeah, the Canadian who watches way too much U.S. politics.
Merrick Garland did a press conference not that long ago, and while technically he cannot say whether something is or is not happening because it is an ongoing investigation, he alluded as much as he could that this is still ongoing. They are not finished, and they are going to be going after all of the organizers, whether they were there or not.
Wow.
So
that's huge.
I've got a favor to ask people out there. Sabrina and I discuss this on a regular basis. Stop calling it a riot.
Yeah, it's not a riot.
It's not a riot. It's a coup. It's an insurrection.
From the point of view of the idiot that was there, that was just being manipulated to just smash windows, sure, maybe it was a riot. But you know what? The whole story as a whole, no, this was a coup attempt.
Yes.
It was a political coup attempt.
And I said it at the beginning that the media is going to immediately whitewash this and try and make it something that it wasn't. They're going to gaslight us into believing that it was just a bunch of idiots who went to start a riot. But let's not, because that's not what it was. They went there thinking that they were going to be able to hang Mike Pence and turn it into Trump being back in office for 4 years. Some strange thing that I don't know how they believed it, but they truly did.
Yeah, these people were calling 1776 Part 2. You know, like, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
You think it was a riot back then too? No, it was a revolution. You know, there's a freaking difference.
I mean, I was talking to my family about it at the one point, and I was like, you know, they said they were going to murder the politicians. You know, like they were like, they're not going to murder politicians. Like they brought fucking gallows, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
They brought gallows
and guns.
and guns.
More people were shot.
Yeah, and as someone who is pretty much from cities that have had a few things that people have talked about as riots, despite the fact that I would argue that they were still protests. No, not a riot.
No,
it's a coup.
Yeah, it failed, but it was a coup.
Yeah, definitely. Coups can fail, lo and behold. Doesn't have to succeed to be a coup.
Thank
we would like to
goodness.
point out we went to the Citadel while we were in Quebec City, and we talked about how the U.S. tried to have a little coup on us, and yeah, there's a reason why we're Canada. And the Citadel had a lot to do with it.
Anyway,
I
that's,
would agree about that.
history. That's history.
I like history. We need to teach them that because you know what? Most Americans don't know we burnt down their White House.
Yeah.
Hey,
Battle of
don't
1812.
blame me for that one. Don't blame me for that one.
We're
No.
still British.
Well,
Yeah.
Anyway, we're way off subject here. Anyway,
Yes.
What are we talking about? That's...
We're talking about
regarding the six, you're right, and I sure hope that Twitter and more social media platforms are more proactive to
Yeah.
ban.
I would love to see a lot of that.
And yes, because you know what, and I know a lot of people will come in and say, "Oh, free speech is this, free speech that," and that's perfectly fine. But when you free speech amendment, that's the government stopping you from saying things. Twitter is a private entity.
Yep.
Twitter is not part of the government. If
Nope.
Twitter doesn't want you to say something on their platform, that's their right.
Yep.
And it's not stopping your free speech. Not at all.
Not even a little bit.
If you said something like you were arrested in the States by the government for saying, you don't like Brent Lee or something like that, that would be stifling your free speech. But that's not the case. So stop, making a big mountain out of a molehill. That's not what's happening here at all. And I sure hope more platforms will start following that kind of
really
example.
are. I think that there's been so much pressure from media and from the people that they need to be quieted because it's causing true harm. And eventually these private businesses are like, well, shit, at what point are we going to be held liable? And what's it going to cost us when we are found liable?
Yeah.
And so what's a better, an easier and a cheaper way to handle this is to ban the people that are opening us up to these probably potentially $1 trillion liabilities. Let's not go there.
And also, don't forget that companies like Twitter or Nike or any of these companies, they don't make these decisions on a whim.
No.
When they make these decisions, they've calculated what's best for the company.
And they've had lawyers going, do this.
Yes, they've calculated that banning Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to get a small segment of the population angry at them, but the vast majority of their users are going to say, yeah, that's a good move.
Yeah.
They don't make this on a whim.
No.
With Nike, when they endorse Colin Kaepernick or anything like that, they know what's better for their business.
Yeah.
They're not doing this just because, we don't like it. They don't care.
Yeah.
Well, they've learned, a lot of the social media have learned that, yes, many of them will scream about going over to Telegraph or wherever, Frank speech or whatever.
Yeah, they've all failed.
Yeah. But they've all failed partially because they're terrifying, badly put together, but then also because a lot of the people get bored very quickly. There's nobody to argue against. There's no one for them to insult. And so they're just sitting there jerking off with each other.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Did y'all hear like what Marjorie Taylor Greene said the reason was that she was banned? Like what she thought?
What did she think?
So get this. This is so fucking weird. So Dan Crenshaw is like another Republican. He's like the he's got the eye patch and stuff.
Yeah, with the eye patch.
That guy.
Yeah, he just came out with a new ad too. That's just ridiculous. But anyway, he was talking about, I believe it was FEMA, and saying like we need to utilize FEMA, and Marjorie Taylor Greene like responded to him and was like, no, I don't. Conservatives don't want that. I'm the true voice of conservatives, and we don't want FEMA to do anything. Blah blah blah. Right. And then like the next day she was kicked off Twitter. And then so she went and looked up like whether or not he had donors from anybody that worked at Twitter. Right. And so she found some guy, that's some donor to Dan Crenshaw that like works at Twitter. And so of course it's a big conspiracy now from Dan Crenshaw attacking her.
Delicious. This is what happens when you're dealing with conspiracy theorists. They will find any path possible to explain their stupidity. This is so delicious to the point they will eat each other up at some point.
I'd like to see more of this cannibalism.
Yes,
right?
Keep it going.
Yeah.